In fairness to our listeners and anybody watching the show, I have to update this graphic because I still have the phone line as the old studio line when we were over at iHeart, but we are now here at home. We still are on iHeart. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we still do the JOB for iHeart, but we do it from home. And I've been saying I want to get the phone lines working and rocking and rolling. But let me tell you something. I say that, but the truth is you can call anytime, 803-450-0086. And I encourage you to call anytime. Matter of fact, we got a couple of callers today. And we will play these on the air. We'll happily play. Mark Packer used to do the whiner line where people would call in and complain or say whatever they wanted. But you don't have to make it a whiner line. Just call in, leave us a message, let us know your take on the game. Without further ado, 00.
Okay, I see the phone lines are not open for live conversation, but I'll leave a message. Man, let's see you Tiger fans get fired up. I want to see some orange all over Columbia, South Carolina, everywhere, all in South Carolina. Put your orange on and get fired up for this game. Let's go, Tigers! Beat them dogs. Later.
See, it works perfectly. And then this caller, who I don't know wants to remain nameless or not, may just say we got 00. This may be Big D checking out the program. Here's what he has to say.
Yeah, I got to say I'm totally tired of hearing everyone talk about how one game at the beginning of the season could ruin somebody's chances of going to the playoffs. I mean, to even engage in that sort of discussion, you've got to be willing to destroy someone's joy and love and excitement for an entire season. For what reason? Just because you want to say you were right at the end of the year? I mean, these pundits that come out with this talk, yeah, sure, it's possible that if Clemson loses, they could be done and never be able to make it back in because they can't help who they play or what their schedule is, and they play a bunch of chumps. But you know what? I would rather go an entire season of enjoying watching my team with the chance of going to the playoffs than just write them off after one game and just ask myself, why am I even watching these games if it doesn't matter? So, yeah, it's certainly possible. Is it worth discussing? Absolutely not. And we're going to beat Georgia anyway later.
I appreciate the call, man. That was great getting a couple of calls. And I got to apologize to Big D because he had called yesterday, and I did not get his message in. So we'll try to continue to do that. And if you want to call the show, you can. There's the number 450-0086. That is a text line as well. You can leave us a message and we'll get you on there. Always love hearing from our listeners. And even though we don't have the quote phone lines the way we used to in studio, that's still perfect, man. Like that is still perfect. The only issue with that is we can't go back and forth. But you know what? We didn't go back and forth much anyway. Most of the time I let you have your take and then I move you on through. It drove 00 crazy. But that's the way you do it in the radio business. If I needed a co-host, I'd go get a co-host. Anyway, appreciate both phone calls there. One from 00, one from Big D. And I kind of engaged in that banter, but I engaged in it about Clemson and Georgia just from the standpoint of, I do feel like, and again, I don't think Clemson's chances of getting in the playoffs are over if they were to lose, but I think that late season argument about Georgia and Clemson would exist. Especially if the Dogs go undefeated and lose in the SEC championship. This is the one reason why I think that the NFL and pro football is more interesting for more people longer, and why the whole dilution of the regular season is something I just don't buy into, is because more teams, like Big D saying there a minute ago, he said, look, why you knock somebody down that they can't get to the playoffs after week one? And there are a lot of teams that are going to lose week one, and there are teams that already lost that know they can't make the playoffs, like Nebraska Anybody think Nebraska is going to make the playoffs at this point? No. Could they win out? Maybe. But in the NFL, there's more leeway. I mean, you can lose 7 games and get into the playoffs. There have been years where maybe teams have lost 8 and gotten into the playoffs. Now, look, I don't think we ever want our college playoff to have an 8-loss team, right? And the way it's set up now, it certainly wouldn't with the number of games that these teams play and having to be in a conference championship. But I have always supported the fact that I believe a larger playoff keeps more people nationally interested longer. It just keeps more people invested longer. I don't think that changes, honestly. I think this 4 teams have been healthy for the sport. I think it is not healthy that the same 4 teams have sort of been dominant, the majority of it, especially Clemson and Alabama. I don't think that's great for the sport, what these 2 teams have done specifically. Ohio State may be on the fringe of that as well. But, it's the way the system's set up right now. So we just rock and roll with it. We'll be rolling with you tomorrow, 22 hours. Buckle your safety belt. Tell your friends and neighbors. Hit that subscribe button. We want to hit 500 before the end of the week. Let's do it. Hit the subscribe right now. Go over there, do it. All right, we got to get out of here. 2 great videos beside us. Until tomorrow, as always, y'all take care now. And, of course, go Tigers.
With Lawton Swan on Columbia's home for sports, Fox Sports Radio 1400.